Meghan Markle has released her new podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder. And I listened to the first episode and I got some thoughts. I'm going to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hey everyone, Alexandra here. I'm a visibility strategist, communications expert. I was a publicist for many years. And I've been kind of following along some of the new ventures that Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, has released, has distributed over the last few months, between the Netflix show that was pushed back due to the wildfires in LA, also the new As Ever brand, the merch company that has had some controversy lately, and also this new podcast about female founders. As a female founder myself, and many of my clients and people who follow me on social media are women entrepreneurs, I feel like I am the target audience for Meghan Markle's new podcast. And so I'm sharing those thoughts from that perspective. I'm also in my review, I'm also going to be giving some, some learning lessons, some do's and don'ts. For example, the last time I talked about this, I was actually critiquing the name Confessions of a Female Founder. There are some, branding issues with that, and I'll talk more about that later. But to get into it, I actually, just in case there's no spoilers here, I just wanted to say a couple of things and then I'll get into some of the points. But if you plan to watch it, then I'm just going to say, who is this for? It was definitely, at least listening to the first episode, I would say this felt like perfect for a mommy entrepreneur, because it definitely talked a lot, not only about the struggles as an entrepreneur, but largely incorporating the issues for women who are moms. And so some of that I didn't really align with because I'm not yet a mom, or I didn't really I didn't really resonate with it because it's not an experience that I've had. But that said, I do think that it's some interesting learning lessons that came from this episode. And what would I rate it? I thought it was okay. And if it was not Meghan Markle, I'm not sure I would want to listen to it. I did like the name from that perspective, but for, widespread appeal, I'm not sure that's going to quite hit the mark. But I would rate it, if I had to, a 3.5. A 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was good enough. It had some good tidbits, and I'm going to go into more of that now. But if you want to watch it or listen to it and let me know your thoughts, go ahead and, and then listen to or watch the rest of this afterward. But I am going to go into some specifics now going forward. All right. So to start, it took me like 5 minutes just to find the podcast. I typed it into Spotify, couldn't find it. I went on to Meghan's Instagram, and this is actually really weird. And I'm not sure why this is. I went into her Instagram and she doesn't have any of that listed. So then I was like, okay, well, let's see if it says something. All right, let's go to Limonada. And I go to, okay, let's look at the link on Limonada. Limonada doesn't even have it on their link here. So you see, they actually don't even have female founders here on Limonada. Like, you're launching probably the best known, at least for right now, best known celebrity podcast at the moment, and you don't even have it listed. It does have archetypes with Meghan, but it doesn't have Confessions of a Female Founder. Another thing, I keep wanting to say Confessions of a Shopaholic, right? I mean, I didn't want to get into the branding stuff so soon, but frankly, like, the fact that it's hard for it to roll off my tongue means that there is this perception about confessions, and other people have gotten that in, have had that. They're early in the market for it. And like maybe 10 years ago, that would have, she would have had a little bit more lead in the market, because that confessions thing was sort of on the newer side back then. But right now I feel like it's a little outdated having the confessions in the name. And that might not necessarily be her fault. This Limonada is the one producing this. But anyways, I think I finally Googled it and was able to, but it took me a long time, way longer than it should have, to be able to find this podcast. So I did finally find it, and I think I Googled it and was able to find a link somehow, but I did get it. And so here are my thoughts. So, from the start, now I don't have a, apparently it did say later that if you were listening to it from certain platforms, it's going to be ad-free, but I did not have an ad-free version. And from the beginning, there were 2 ads that were made by somebody. I think later on it occurred to me it was probably somebody from Limonada, maybe one of the producers. And so it sounded very conversational. The ads were done in a conversational way, which is fine. The first ad was clearly an ad. The second one was like, well, if you know anything about me, talking about it. And I was like, who is this person? I have no idea who you are. That is not Meghan Markle, though. So I was really confused from the beginning with the ads. Again, I felt like they were trying to be conversational to make it flow, but the ads probably should have been done by Meghan. And, or said, hey, I'm such and such. I'm one of the producers on this show. And if you know anything about me, blah, 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 right? So I do feel like that was a weird missed opportunity and made me really confused. And so that didn't really start. They also could have started with the teaser or with the intro first and then gone into the ads. I think that would have made it a little bit better, but that didn't come until later. I thought that the teaser was actually not so good. The teaser that they took from the podcast, like that teaser moment. I don't know. I think that there might have been some other teaser moments in there that might have been stronger. But the podcast intro, I think, is good. And I think that was done really well. Although the intro jingle is a man, and it sounds kind of like a mix between rappy, but also old-timey music. It was weird. And it was a man singing. Like you could tell it was, I actually had to Shazam it because I was like, maybe this is a woman with a very deep voice and I don't want to misgender the person. But no, it is a man. And just does not go. I think that was a missed opportunity. I think they should have had a woman. If this is about women, I think they should have had a woman musician and had something, maybe the title of the song, like what they're saying might have gone well with it. But no, I did not like that. I thought that was a missed opportunity there. It didn't land. So they were interviewing, you see, I don't even know her as a female founder who is, in the industry. To me, this is not a common household name. So Whitney Wolfe Herd, she is the founder of Bumble. And Meghan says, right when she's introducing her, she says something like, and you've heard of her. Like she said it very definitively. And I remember thinking, no, I haven't heard of her. So I think that could have been done a little bit better. Like it's kind of a little embarrassing because I think most people do not know who she is. If we heard her name or we saw her, in the airport, we would not know who she is. Do we know what Bumble is? Yes. You lead with the Bumble, right? And many of you may have heard of her, but I had never heard, I don't know her name. And so I think that's fine. And I think having, leading with the Bumble is good because most people have heard of Bumble and they know that it's kind of like a female-led app as well. And obviously Bumble is a female-led brand. So I think that was good having Bumble or the founder of Bumble as a guest. And apparently they're friends. So they've met and they've socialized before and their kids are close in age. So 20 minutes in, that includes ads. So about 20 minutes in, and the majority of discussion is on media and publicity that Whitney received because she had some backlash from coming forward about SH claims at Tinder where she used to work. And then Meghan was tying in her own story. And then Whitney and Meghan were kind of bouncing back on the negative publicity and negative criticism that they're getting on social media and all that. And although I did like that Whitney tied in her story, I thought that was a really cool to tie in that story. Up until about that 20 minutes in, including ads, there was very little actual business. Like we didn't actually get to business. And part of it was her telling her story. I get that. But again, it took a long time to get to businessy things that like some female founder would actually care about. Although some of it was really interesting, to like talk a lot about that. It didn't feel like a female founder type talk. It felt more like a, girl talk type thing. One of the things I had talked about is like she could have had a little bit more in her Netflix show. She could have had a little bit more of the drama, talked more about the backstory of her guests. I think that was a really big missed opportunity, and about her own life and the royals' life. I think that was a little bit of a missed opportunity. It was peppered in, but it was not a strong focus. And I think that's what people are going to tune in. You're going to tune in for a celebrity show or book or movie or documentary or podcast, and you want to get the backstory of the celebrity. And I did like that when she was talking about her story, that she was able to, this is Whitney now, from the founder of Bumble, was able to, turn lemons into lemonade, and of course as a play on Limonada being the producer. But I really did think that there was a good story there, that there was a good lesson there of not giving up, of turning the negative situation into a positive and creating something, valuable from that. Now, here's the thing. About halfway into the podcast, Meghan says that she first heard about Whitney because she saw it on some newspaper or media outlet that she was the first female self-made billionaire. And that's cool, except that to me, it seemed very clear that Meghan didn't do her homework here, because I looked it up, and what made Whitney a billionaire is because she took Bumble public. And at the time, she was valued, she had about 11% share of Bumble. She was valued at about 2.2 billion. But within a year, a little over a year, the price dropped from $76 a share to $18 a share. And so she went from 2.2 billion to about 500 million. And so the fact that Meghan brought that up, but didn't position it in a way, like I feel like she heard self-made billionaire and still thinks that Whitney is a billionaire when she's not. In fact, if the stock price now is $3.7 a share, which would make her only about 150 or 170 million when I did the math. So not shabby by any stretch of the imagination, but 2.2 billion to about 170 million in a few years. I mean, that is awful. And if you guys recall, there was controversy with Kylie Jenner when her business was overvalued, and she was considered a self-made billionaire as well. And the valuation of her company was over what it was inflated. And so she's no longer considered a billionaire. Now, you see, being that I am in business, that I am an entrepreneur, these things, interest me. So this is the stock price in 2021. It was at $76, February 2021. And this is what I was saying. In February 2028, the value was $18. The share was $18. So between here and here, up here, she was valued at 2.2 billion. Down here, she's valued at 500 million. And it has continued to go down, and it's 3.7. It is at an all-time low. Now, here's the thing. Whitney didn't mention this, and I don't know if this was cut out from the podcast. It might have been cut out from the episode. But first of all, if Meghan had done her homework, she would have positioned the question in a way that would have taken that into account. How does it feel being a billionaire and then all of a sudden your stock price, and now this is a different story? Or she wouldn't even have brought it up to begin with. Whitney said, she mentioned that the stock price went to an all-time low. I would assume if you're going to say that, maybe it would have been somewhere over here, whatever. But no, it has continued to go down. So something that was $76 a share in 2021 is now 4 years later, $3.7. So now they're at an all-time. It's not like it was an all-time and then it went back up. So yes, people have heard of Bumble, but at the same time, this would not be considered necessarily a success story. When I interview guests, I do my job and I research the person that I'm interviewing and get as much information as possible on them. So it's a really weird, to bring up the billionaire thing, but then based on she's a billionaire because of the stock price, and the stock price has dramatically lowered. I mean, that is, again, not doing her homework, frankly. And I think this is a kind of a big deal. And that's why I'm stressing this, because this is kind of a big deal when you have a guest like that. And so it's a possibility that they talked about this more, but they cut it out of the podcast. Now, what she did talk about, they did talk a lot about being the balance that came from having this thing happen to her, you know, having this, she mentioned it right after saying the stock price was at an all-time low. And then I had to like find my balance. I had to find what was important to me, regardless of this net worth on paper. She had to get back to what was valuable to her. And I totally get that. And that's a really valid point. No matter what's happening around you as a business owner, you have to have your values and priorities in check. Otherwise, you can get it swept under, this rush of what's happening with the business. And sometimes not everything is in your control. I thought that was really interesting. She also talked about both of them apparently suffered from preeclampsia after childbirth. And so that was interesting. That's part of the news actually that came out on the different media outlets. That was one of the things that was covered, as I guess nobody really knew about this. She wasn't talking about it. Again, back to the large part of the episode was talking about them as moms. And so I do think that this would definitely be much more interesting and relevant for entrepreneurial moms, or maybe even working moms. The general mainstream audience, and this is back to the branding thing, I talked about this, that know who your audience is. And when you're talking about a celebrity, you want to try to get some mainstream. If she wanted to target entrepreneurial women, that's fine, but that's a very small audience. And I think that she probably could have gone a little bit more broad. The other thing is with the name, she is not known as an entrepreneur. She's not known as a female founder. I know she has a new business with As Ever, but that hasn't really been very successful. So people do not see her as an entrepreneur. They don't see her as a businesswoman. I do think that she's trying to position herself this way, clearly, but I'm not sure it's going to land. Now, a few weeks ago, I discussed this podcast when it was first released, and I took it into like learning lessons here. And there were some trademark trouble with it. And also, I was talking about naming. And one of the things that I talked about, this was a branding presentation I did a couple of years ago. You want messaging that whenever possible, you want it to be specific, tangible, audience-driven, relevant, have an emotional reaction or emotional connection, and simple. And I do think the name is okay. It is specific. I don't think it's relevant for her. And this is part of the problem. What makes Meghan Markle relevant is either the royal aspect or her time as a celebrity. And so people don't know her yet as a businesswoman. And so the relevancy, I think it's going to fizzle out. I don't think it's going to do well. I think people are going to listen to one episode, maybe two, maybe pick the people that they know that they've heard of and watch those or listen to those. But I don't think that it's going to be successful because it doesn't have that mainstream appeal. And when you're somebody like Meghan Markle as a celebrity, you want to talk about something that has a more wide appeal. That's just my opinion. I don't know if I'm going to be right on that, but it would be interesting to see what happens, how many people actually listen to the podcast. And then the last critique that I would have is that I really think that she should have had video. The audio is really good. It sounds like they might be in the same studio. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I also listened to Archetypes and it didn't look like there was video on that. So I almost wonder if she's not confident enough in herself to do video and is relying on editing. I think she did a good job. I thought her voice carried. I thought she sounded really calm. I mean, she's got that. She does have a calm presence. I think she could be a good interviewer. And, maybe that part lands. But again, people are interested because it's her. So they want to get a little bit more of those juicy details. So again, I would be curious to see what happens, how people think about her podcast. And so far, she's got a 4.5 out of 5. And let's see some of these comments. Simply enjoyed the discussion. I'm looking forward to the next episodes. Great discussion, great podcast. What a great duo. I genuinely wonder if the majority of positive comments on here are legitimate. It seems Meghan's vision and style of relating to her guests, others, is dilapidated. Her words, tonality, and attention paid are contrived to promote love, acceptance, and strength. I feel strongly she doesn't understand these things. She just knows how to talk about them. Lack of substance to her work and presence is an understatement. Okay, another knock out of the park. Absolutely so boring, had to turn it off. She had 6 failed businesses and 2 failed podcasts, including this one. What can she teach us how to get your spouse to abandon his family for you? Fabulous podcast. She was on every magazine cover because it was just about after her Oprah interview, thrashing the RF, the royal family, self-congratulatory drive, marrying a prince. Well done, Megs. And okay, the pod is clearly targeting people who are vacuous and live in a fairyland. Celebrity culture has infected our world. Okay, she hasn't founded a thing. Yeah. The thing is, again, there is a lack of relevancy because we don't see her as a founder. And so it is a little weird there's like a misalignment there. This one says, I thought this was Confessions of a Yacht Girl. Loved Meghan's archetypes, and this is even better. I listened to about 5 minutes of Meghan's archetypes, and again, it actually seemed like it would have really benefited from video, because there's you listen to things that she was saying, but it would have been better to see it on video. There's just a lot of things I think that there was a really big missed opportunity for her to take advantage of video. And like it could have been even done as a TV show with the podcast element. Again, yeah, like I said, this is really, I think, going to be most relevant to women entrepreneurs, mom entrepreneurs, to be specific, because it really talks a lot about the mom journey. And if I had to guess, most of the women that she's going to be interviewing are moms herself. And it's fair for her as a mom to want to interview moms. And some of it, I'm sure, was self-serving so that she can get these learning lessons, and figured, let's just turn it into a podcast. But mainstream appeal is not there, especially since we don't really know the names of the people that she's like, we know the companies, but we don't necessarily know these names. So I don't know. Would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Did you listen? Are you planning on listening to it? Do you think that there's value here? Or do you think that she should scrap this, another failed business attempt on her part? Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you like this video, if you learned something new, please hit the thumbs up. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate if you do. Cover tips and strategies to help you grow your visibility, and as well, the VisibiliTEA, the learning lessons, do's and don'ts from influencers, celebrities, and pop culture news. And if you like this video, you'll also enjoy these videos as well. And with that, have a blessed rest of your day. Bye for now.